This Saturday, millions of us are marching. Not with hatred, not with weapons, but with truth, laughter, and maybe even a little glitter. Because the people in power want chaos. They need it. Trump and his black hearted backup singers feed on fear like vampires on fresh blood. They want someone to snap, to give them an excuse to roll out their armored cosplay and point the cameras. See, we told you so. Sean Duffy already called the No Kings marches Antifa, which is hilarious since Antifa isn't an organization. It's just people who think fascism is bad. Imagine being so morally bankrupt, you think kindness is terrorism. So here's what we're going to do. We'll give them the one thing they can't weaponize, can't cage, can't control: joy. Big, brazen, bare-assed joy. We'll show up with sarcasm and signs, with music and movement, with humor and with hope. Because when they want fear, we show up full of life. When they want violence, we answer with volume. When they want silence, we sing. The No Kings marches on Saturday aren't riots, they're reminders. They're veterans, teachers, nurses, parents, kids on bikes. They're everyone these hypocrites pretend to represent, but actually despise. They have armored trucks and talking heads. We have cardboard courage and caffeine. They have propaganda. We have punchlines. So if you've ever felt small, disconnected, like this country stopped listening, just show up, even for an hour, even if it's raining, because democracy doesn't defend itself. We do. They can't arrest everyone. They can't outlaw laughter. And they damn sure can't stop freedom when it's dancing in the streets. We, the people, are stronger than the people in power. Always have been, always will be. So I'll see you Saturday. Welcome back to Sane-ish. Today's guest is Don Lemon, award-winning journalist, outspoken truth-teller, and host of The Don Lemon Show. With 3 decades reporting from the front lines of America's biggest stories, Don has never shied away from hard truths or challenging controversy. Since leaving CNN, he's reinvented himself as an independent media force, tackling everything from race and culture wars to the wildest headlines about Trump, Congress, and the future of free speech. Whether he's breaking news on YouTube and podcasts, standing up to power, or championing the voices that get drowned out at bigger networks, Don brings fearless energy and authenticity to every conversation. If you think the news is wild right now, you haven't heard Don Lemon take on the moment, which you and I will get to do together in just a minute. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, and no BS. So be smart and say yes to making the switch to Mint Mobile, where you'll get premium wireless for $15 a month. Why? Well, if you want to save money, and who doesn't? So then it's time to think about getting rid of overpriced wireless from the big 3. No more jaw-dropping monthly bills filled with unexpected overages and hidden fees. Who needs that? Especially when Mint plans start at $15 a month. And all Mint plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Plus, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your phone number along with all your existing contacts. It's that easy. Look, if I needed this product, it's what I would definitely be using. Everything I've heard is that the service is just as good, if not better, than what you already have. And $15 a month with unlimited talk and text, that's amazing. Seems too good to be true, but it is true, thanks to Mint Mobile. So, are you ready to say yes to saying no? Then make the switch at mintmobile.com/JoJo. That's mintmobile.com/JoJo. JoJo. Upfront payment of $45 is required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time, new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Okay, let's do this, people. Here's Don Lemon. Welcome. This is the Sane-ish podcast. The reason I called Sane-ish, right, is because is anyone really sane right now? I'm very excited to talk to you, Don Lemon, because we've never actually spoken. Well, we met very briefly in New York, but we've not interacted too much online. So I'm excited to talk to you today.
Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to talk to you. And as I told you before, I'll let everyone in a little secret. I said, I only do these if I like the person or I know them personally. And so I kind of know you personally because I met you once, but I really like your work. And I like what you do.
Thank you. Well,
thank you for having me on.
I'm going to try not to blush because that's a very nice and high compliment. So thank you very much for that. We do have mutuals. And so I know Tara Setmayer speaks very highly of you. She's like, he's just a nice guy, Joe. You'll see he's just a really nice, really normal, really down to earth guy. She's like, "Don't be nervous." And I'm like, "Okay." I mean, sometimes, I get nervous meeting new people, but I'm not nervous because you're a very nice guy. And we've already talked through half a meal. So we're like, we're basically best friends.
I ate lunch with JoJo just now. She did not eat, but you did.
No, I did. I ate
I mean,
before
but
you.
I did. But I ate.
I ate
I
some
ate.
terrible Dunkin' Donuts egg patty sandwich. And I've actually been virtually drunk with you once too. You didn't know that. But one New Year's Eve on CNN in New Orleans, I think. It was you and help me out. Brooke, right? Brooke Baldwin. Is
Brooke
that what her name?
Baldwin. Yeah. Yeah.
You got pretty shitty and I was like right there with you the whole time
You
because I
mean
was like,
shit face, not
that's what I
shitty,
mean.
but
Not shitty asshole shitty, shitty shit face shitty, which is different from shitty shitty bang bang. But nonetheless, I
can I let
digress.
you in on a little secret?
Yes, please.
I mean, I am feeling good, but part of it is like, you're going with the crowd. It's like the Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra, and you're just carrying a glass around. But I
Oh
get pretty
yeah.
loose, but I'm never like, out of control.
Oh, no, you weren't. No, I don't mean to suggest that. I mean, not like, Anderson Cooper after 3 shots, but, uh, not like that. It was fun, it was festive, and what I mean was I was going along with the festivity of it, so it was fun, you imbibe a little bit, you have a little fun, you cut loose, it's New Year's, right? That's what you're supposed to do.
Right on.
But you still got a job to do, you're still professional. But those were sweeter, more innocent, kinder, more gentle times, and that's not necessarily where we're at right now, so I want to dive in first and foremost with a question about whether or not it is a red line in the Republican Party anymore. Because I mean, they keep moving what used to exist, but now we're seeing this group chat with the youth, young Republicans, whatever. We're seeing
Crazy.
a swastika on an American flag in a congressman's office. I don't know if you saw that tweet from the guy who was almost Trump's AG about Hakeem Jeffries being Soros's house slave. I don't know if you saw that. I'll send it to
No.
you. Yeah, that was
Did he
yesterday.
say slave or did he say the N-word?
No, he said slave.
Okay.
He said
Wow.
slave. And so, and all of this is happening while Mike Johnson has the government shut down because they don't want to swear in a duly elected member of Congress because she represents the 218th vote on a discharge petition for the Epstein files release. So they're covering up for a pedophile. All of this, right? Are there any red lines anymore at all?
No, there are no red lines. And not only are there no red lines, but the leaders of the party will make excuses for any sort of bad behavior. So if if you look at this, the latest one, the political story about the group chats with all of the Nazi language about, gas chambers and the racist language about watermelon people. And if I want to see a monkey, then I'll go to the zoo, that kind of thing, referring to black people. Yeah. Then you have JD Vance making excuses for him, saying, you know what, these are just kids. I don't want to cancel kids. They're not kids. They're in their 20s and 30s and almost 40. JD Vance is 41 years old. I think one of the people in there was like 35, and there are other folks who they work for who are older.
Yeah.
And so these aren't kids. And so trying to just pawn it off as kids, and he doesn't want to cancel kids or college people for what they do. I said on my show that they did not have that same energy, whether you agree with them or what they did or not, for the college students who were out protesting during the response to October 7th. They wanted to cancel those kids. Not only did they want to cancel the kids, Donald Trump sued the universities, and some of it, he won some of it,
yeah,
because they just, they want to just get the lawsuit out of the way for hundreds of millions of dollars. And now JD Vance is saying, oh no, let the kids be kids and whatever. It's like, okay, if you want to let kids be kids, then you have to have the same energy for all sides and not just the people who you want to support. He knows that they're wrong, but he has to make an excuse for it because dear leader wants him to make an excuse, because it all comes from the top. They are only doing what Donald Trump is doing. They're repeating and mimicking his actions and his language.
Yeah, the fish definitely rots from the head down. And I mean, he wasn't the original asshole, but he was, the one whom I think has made the biggest impact, in terms of conditioning their shamelessness and getting them to be accustomed to being shameless. But the whole thing, there's so much hypocrisy, like what you just pointed out with this double standard when it comes to free speech, right? There's all of this hypocrisy when it comes to weaponizing the federal government against your political enemies, because you called it out. Donald Trump used to pretend. They used to hide in the shadows with this corruption where they would ask, people to go after, political enemies. He accidentally posted about it recently, then deleted the post. But then yesterday, or was it yesterday? He's got Kash Patel and Pam Bondi in the Oval Office, which increasingly looks like a Temu romper room of it's like Versailles, like you ordered it on Shein. But he just says it out loud now. And
Yeah.
this is the same party that told us that Joe Biden was weaponizing the federal government and the Department of Justice against his political enemies. But Trump's just saying it out loud.
And yes, he's saying it out loud. Let me get to the Biden part, and then I'll get to the Trump part. The Biden part, Merrick Garland was so weak.
Oh,
and his own party, people in his own party, and meaning leaders and also U.S. citizens were saying, when are you going to do something about this? When are you going to? And he did nothing. He waited way too long, right? And then here we are with Donald Trump as president. Now, I thought it was what they did yesterday. I think it was in the Oval Office. It was in the Oval Office or the East Room. I think it was in the Oval Office. Whatever.
With Pam and Kash, that was the Oval Office. The East Room was the ballroom thing.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we can talk about that too.
But what I saw was, to me, should I be surprised that they're doing this? I should be. But I think yesterday was more egregious because he just said out loud, as he looked at both of them out of the corner of his eye, saying, this person's awful, that person's awful, this person needs to be prosecuted. When what Joe Biden did, anytime he was asked, why isn't Merrick Garland doing this? Why isn't he prosecuting Donald Trump? Why isn't he said, the Justice Department is independent. I don't want to have influence on anything the Justice Department is doing. Therefore, I believe Merrick Garland acted too late. Perhaps if Joe Biden had put some pressure on it, he would have done something. But that's not how it's supposed to work. You're not supposed to be influencing the Justice Department if you are the president, even if you're the executive, okay? This administration does not understand that. This administration thinks that the public and the people who work for the media work for him or them. They don't understand that they work for the public, that they're actually public servants, that we're paying their salaries, and they're also living in public housing, some of them, who we are providing, that we are providing the money and the resources for them to be able to live in the public housing, for them to be able to do what they do because we pay their salaries. But to stand there in front of the American people, that's is it the straw that breaks the camel's back? That should be the break glass moment for all Americans because it's so unpatriotic. It's so un-American. And quite frankly, I'm not even sure if it's legal.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem, right? There were all these cracks and fissures in the way that the institutions and the way things were set up, and other people, they didn't try to occupy them with as much poison, let's just say, as Donald Trump. So whether or not, it's legal, it's not probably, but the Department of Justice, I believe, is under the executive branch. And there's just been this understanding, just like with the Hatch Act, right? Understanding that these are things you don't do, that you do, unless you're Richard Nixon, right? That you do maintain a distance between yourself and the Department of Justice because of the appearance of impropriety, obviously. Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about any of that. So he is testing all of those little cracks that existed so that he can get in there and spread them wide open. And then in that space, you end up with indictments of, Tish James and indictments of James Comey and what's going to inevitably the indictments of Chris Krebs and Adam Schiff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What is crazy to me is that it's just, we get to a point where it's well, what do we do? Because there's no superhero coming. You know what I mean? There's no Hatch Act police. There's no impropriety DOJ police. It's supposed to be Congress, but first of all, half of them have cut tail and run because of the Epstein files, and the other half don't have the reins of power. So it can feel like absolute madness, but you're exactly right. Should we be surprised? I don't have the capacity to be surprised anymore, but I'm still shocked. But then what, right? This is the thing I asked George Conway. I'm he said, you can't blow up boats off the coast of Venezuela. It's illegal. It's a war crime. And then I'm okay. And
he
then
doesn't care.
what?
He's still blowing them up.
Right.
Yeah. And you mentioned all the people, and don't forget about John Bolton, right? John Bolton has also been indicted.
Right, I forgot.
Yeah. And then, so I guess next will be Adam, as he called him, shifty shit. That's going to be next. Every single person he mentioned, and the person, I forget exactly who he mentioned in the Oval Office yesterday. It's just so much in my head. That person will undoubtedly, inevitably be indicted as well.
Yeah.
That's things, people should go to jail for that.
Right.
As someone in the executive branch, the person who's the president of the United States should not be participating in that behavior. And I just don't know. As someone who doesn't belong to a political party, I don't understand why Republicans aren't outraged, because what is good for the goose is going to be good for the gander. Eventually, there will be a Democratic president in office, and that Democratic president can say, "Hey, your guy did it. Your guy set the precedent for it. So now I'm going for it. Not only am I going to enact or whatever the Supreme Court, whatever it is, I don't know if they can do Roe v. Wade or whatever, but I'm going to do all the executive orders to reverse everything that Donald Trump did, and we're going to go even further." And so they're setting themselves up for the sort of cruelty Olympics,
Yeah.
right? The own your enemy Olympics. So the next person is just going to own their. I doubt that a Democrat will actually do it, or if they want to go after their political rivals, or if they want to go after the folks in the Trump administration, and then say, well, Donald Trump wasn't of sound mind and body because he displayed all of these things. So all of those pardons that he wrote, they don't stand because he wasn't he wasn't acting in his official capacity as president, because he had no idea what his official capacity as president was, because he had some cognitive issues. That's what they could do.
That's
and
what they're
who's to
trying to
stop
do with
them?
the auto pen.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, they're trying to do that. But again, I just don't see how Republicans just aren't outraged as well. Like, stop it. This is unconstitutional.
Their fecklessness is one of the questions. We were talking about a question that I've been trying to squeeze the answer out of this guy for a long time before, but this is another one for me. I don't understand what the hell you're doing as a lawmaker if you're going to sacrifice all of your principles in service of some loser, idiot, con man, reality game show host moron, right? Like, I don't understand why you stay in Congress, why you have a job in government if you're like, okay, well, you know what? I really do believe we should support Ukraine, and I do believe that we should be a part of USAID, and I do believe in the rule of law, and I do believe in due process. But you know what? Donald Trump doesn't want any of those things. And I also believe that I am a co-equal branch of government with a check on the executive, but I am just not going to do those things. I'm just going to be here to collect a paycheck and ride in the Senate elevator. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. To me, like, I would rather just like greet people at Walmart or like change urinal cakes at some truck stop on the Oklahoman Panhandle. Like, why am I going to Congress and putting on a pin every day if I'm not there to like actually do the work that I said I wanted to do for my constituents? I'll never understand this. I will ask everyone I ever talk to explain it to me, because like I just don't get it.
That was very vivid, JoJo. Thank you.
I have an obsession with the Oklahoma Panhandle. I just want to know what happens there. I just
And urinal cakes.
Yeah, well, urinal cakes, I don't know what that's all about, because I think I learned that word as a public school educator, because I was like, what is that thing? And because you have to take the little kid. It's a long story. Anyway, I digress. But someone told me it was called a cake, and I was like, that's not a cake. Like the English call puddings, sausage, the pudding, that's not pudding. That's clearly not a cake. I just don't. So anyway, I've become obsessed with those two things, and so I often combine them. But you take my point, right?
I get it. Yeah. I do take your point, but I don't look, I don't know if there is a solution for it. I think the only way that you can explain it is that they don't really believe in the things that they say. They believe, like, whatever the Republican does, or whatever the Republican leader wants, that's what we'll follow. Whether that is, whether it's lawless or not, whether it doesn't require standards or scruples, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that we're going against our core principles, which is small government overreach, right, and states' rights. Everything they're doing now is the exact opposite of those things that they claim that they want. And the pickle that they're in right now is that they were banking on the American people for the American people to feel or believe that Democrats were the cause of the shutdown. That's not happening. That's a tough one that I've been telling people. They're like, no, Republicans are going to blame the Democrats and it's going to stick. And I'm like, that's going to be really tough when you're in control of every single lever of government, and you're saying that it's the Democrats' fault. You control the House, you control the Senate, you control the executive branch, the judicial branch. You have a majority in the Supreme Court as well. So how can you say that this is Democrats' fault? And I think the American people are buying it. But also, they aren't buying what Republicans are saying. But also, think about it. I think this was the one time that Democrats were smart, because they banked everything really on healthcare and for, the tax incentives for the Affordable Care Act, right? Or the incentives, I should say, for the Affordable Care Act. And who doesn't? I don't care I don't care how far right you are, how far left you are. Everyone deserves affordable health care. And I think this is something that everybody agrees on. Everyone wants their family to be taken care of when they go to the doctor and the hospital, and they don't want to have outrageous premiums for being able to do it. They don't want to have crazy medical costs. And everyone wants it. Their Medicaid and their Medicare. Everybody.
Yep.
And so I think Democrats are really smart this time. And I think Republicans are playing a really dangerous game.
Yeah.
And I think in the end, there's no winning for them with this one. They're going to have to relent, or the government is going to remain shut down for a very long time, maybe until November when there are some elections. It's not exactly the midterms, but maybe until November, Thanksgiving. That's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think on some level they think the American people are stupid, right? Like, you don't have to be super dialed in to know that they're in charge of everything. You don't really have to be like, in the weeds on this stuff every day. But I also know that they're telling on themselves and how scared they are about all of this, because they're going to such great lengths to try to gaslight the people into believing this is the Democrats, because you have Kristi Noem.
It's about trans athletes.
Right.
And it's about, giving Cadillac health care to migrants and undocumented people. Like, wait, what?
Right. I mean, it's all a bridge, obviously, too far. But they're having all these Hatch Act violations where if you go to any government.com now or .gov or whatever, it's like, oh, we're shut down because of the evil, radical Dems and the leftists, socialists. And Kristi Noem's got that video at the airports where she just says it out loud. You're delayed because of the Democrats. They're doing all of that because they know that they cannot message their way out of this very obvious reality. But they're also showing their cards because they're trying to rig every map in every red state that they can, so that when the midterms finally do get here, that they win, not because they should have or because they were electable, but because they rigged the maps. And that shit scares me. And honestly, like when I talk to people about, in particular, what the Supreme Court might be voting or ruling on soon as far as the voting rights go, this one, if you're in the weeds and you know what's
story. I'm glad you're bringing that up. That's a big story.
Big, huge story, right?
Yeah.
And people aren't talking about it yet because it's kind of wonky. It's kind of in the weeds until it happens. And then you're like, wait, hold on. What happened? How did that happen? But like the maps and all this gerrymandering shit, this to me is the tell that they know what they're doing is deeply, deeply unpopular. And they're like, oh, we'll be fine. We'll just cheat our way out of it.
Yeah. Well, and they will. And they might get away with it.
Yeah.
And they might get away with it. Look, I think like if you overturn, they're continuing to try to gut the Voting Rights Act, but the longer you continue to do this, and they're gonna make some leeway in doing this, I believe the country is irreparably changed, at least for the next 50 years, maybe. To undo all of this stuff is going to take another generation of people to do it, and that frightens me, because if you look at they are younger people, not young people, but if you look at some of the people in their 20s and 30s who are in those group chats and they're saying all of those things, that's the future on the Republican side.
Yeah.
And how do you think that's going to change the future into a positive way? So I think it's going to take quite some time for this to even show up and people to realize, like, holy shit, what happened? How did we get here?
My son's 16. I have a 16-year-old and 12-year-old. And I said to my son in the car last night when I was learning about the potential like missiles that might be coming from ships off the coast of California on the same exact time as the No Kings, so that they can show off force or whatever, conveniently shutting down all these major arteries to get people to and from these protests. But I was talking to my son and I just turned to him and I was like, I really hope your generation figures this shit out, because like as a mom, my why is so that we don't, exactly what you just said, we don't have decades under this repressive oppressive regime of hate and bigotry and sexism and racism and dehumanization. And I want to, before we leave, I want to talk about Chicago and you being at that ICE facility and talking about what you saw and what you experienced and what the hell's going on there. But like, I'm very, very worried that my son and my daughter are going to inherit a world that looks more like The Handmaid's Tale than it looked like, the youth that I had. And by no means was that perfect, but we were at least moving in the right direction, and we're not right now. So that scares the shit out of me. But I do want to talk about what you experienced in Chicago. What were you doing there? What did you see? What were your observations? And what the hell can we do about ICE?
Well, before we get into that, and I think this is a step in the right direction, did you see what the federal judge did?
What, in Illinois?
Federal immigration officers in the Chicago area, I'm reading a headline right now, will be required to wear body cameras.
Oh, God, that's great.
The judge said that she was so startled by what she saw with the provocation of protesters and the use of tear gas, et cetera, that she's like, this is outrageous and you must wear body cams to make sure that people's rights aren't being violated. So finally,
yeah.
I'm surprised that it took this long.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that people aren't seeing it. You aren't seeing a lot of that. You see snippets of it in corporate media. On the ground, as you asked me what I saw on the ground, it changed the way I felt about the story, because I'm like, okay, well, I want to see what's up. I was being, let me just see. I want to be objective and open-minded, and what you always want to be as a journalist. And then when you get there, you see the real deal. The provocation that I saw was not coming from the protesters. It was coming from law enforcement. Now, when you have protesters out there, protesters are going to protest, right? That's what they're going to do. They're going to yell. They get boisterous. They're in your face. We know all of that. But that's not assaulting an officer. You know what I mean? They're just yelling and they're frustrated. That's part of their First Amendment right. Freedom of expression, right? The right to assemble. And so the folks that I saw really instigating the violence or the disturbances were from law enforcement. Now, I don't know if they were doing it advertently or inadvertently. I'm not sure. But they were videotaping the protesters, right? And I guess they were sort of chronicling and getting whoever's in the crowd and what they're doing. But the law enforcement was unorganized. They were jumpy. They didn't de-escalate. They didn't wait long enough. They just jumped on a situation of something, and instead of waiting for it to calm down, they just jumped in. They restricted the protesters' times and areas to protest in real time. And then they'd realize, well, oh, wait, we can't move them over here because that's an open, large throughway. And then if someone gets hit by a car, then we're going to, you know what I mean? We may be responsible for that. So then they try to bring the protesters back into the area where they were, that they were moved away from. And the protesters are like, what the hell are you doing? And so, and then they said, okay, well, they're not coming back into the area where we wanted them to come, that we pushed them out and we shouldn't have. And now we have to kettle them or herd them into a direction to try to get them off of the streets. And it's like, but you caused them to go on the streets.
Right.
You did that. And now you want to push them out and you want to trample over them and shove them with batons or whatever, because you put them in the situation in the first place. If you had just left them behind the barricades, and even if they were there after the designated protest time. Okay. So, Jojo, okay, what? So what? Who cares? Like, right. It's not that big a deal. It's not like they're shooting people. It's not like they're doing water cannons. It's not like they're not doing anything except mouthing off. That's all they're doing, and yelling at cars going in and out. Okay. Might be annoying, but it ain't against the law. So I saw a lot of that. I also saw a lot of frustrated people who were frustrated at, the lies that they're hearing about, well, these people, they're illegal. And they're like, well, they're saying no one is illegal, especially when you're on stolen land. People are not illegal. It is a misdemeanor to cross the border. Now, if you do it repeatedly, that changes the law. It goes up, right? It scales up. However, everyone thought that it was just the people who supported this, I should say, not everyone, they thought it was going to be, as they said, the most violent criminals. We're going to get all of those, the gangs, off the streets. And it's going to be undocumented people and so on. It's not that. It's not just they're rounding up everyone. I witnessed it. I interviewed people. I interviewed a 66-year-old black man, Jojo, lived here his entire life. He's not Latino. He's a black man that's lived in Chicago forever. He had his birth certificate with him. He had his state ID with him. He had his social security card with him in a backpack because he was just handling some business from the state that he had to deal with. I'm not sure he said, but something from the state. He goes, I had it in my backpack. They didn't want to see it. They put me in the back of not U-Haul. What's the other, Ryder or one of those, budget rent a truck, like when you're just moving furniture from the house. He said he was in there with a bunch of people. They were all standing around each other. There's no place to sit, no place to hold on to. They were being rummaged around in the back of the truck. And then he gets to this facility. He's kept there for 10 hours. And then they just say, okay, you can go. And with no explanation. And he said everyone that they were rounding up in this neighborhood, except for a very few, were not Latino. There were people, black people who had grown up with his entire life in that neighborhood. And you saw it from the moms who were in the carpool line the other day, roughed them up, smashed their heads into the ground, zip tied them in front of all their children and their children's classmates and friends,
I can't.
took them away, and then eventually let them go because they never should have been taken in the first place. And there are people out there who believe that, no, the agents aren't doing that. They're giving people due process. They're asking for papers. They're doing it humanely. That's all bullshit. They're not doing that. I witnessed it. So if you're being fed that from the Trump administration and from the media, that there are protesters out there who are attacking law enforcement and ICE agents, that is a lie.
Yeah.
That is a lie. If you believe that they are not just rounding up people willy-nilly and violating their Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights, that's a lie as well. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do is go to the streets of Chicago and stay there long enough, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And then you'll come away with a different perspective, unless you're just blinded by your ideology, that what is happening now is un-American. I don't care if you're a MAGA, if you are a Democrat, if you are a Republican, if you're a libertarian, I don't care. You should want it to stop in your country. This is not right. This is why people are leaving those countries to come to America, because those countries have authoritarian rule and dictators and despots and all of those things, right? They're coming to America because America doesn't have that. And our Constitution does not say that only American citizens have due process rights. It says all persons, no matter why, whatever reason that you're here, no matter how undocumented you are or how migrant you are, you still have human rights in America. That's what separates us from every other country. And the moment we get rid of that, we're no better than Mexico. We're no better than North or South Korea or any place on earth like that. We are the same and possibly worse because we know better. Or Russia. We should know better.
Right. And to that end, and I promise this is my final question, because it's a forward-looking one, and if there's any glimmers of hope or silver linings, it could be this. So you were speaking about protest. You're speaking about this not being a partisan issue, because it's not. Because, by the way, first they came for anybody who thinks that they have an all-access club card to the Broligarch party room or whatever is wrong. It's not just going to start here with people you don't like. It's eventually going to come for you. But the silver lining part, protest. This Saturday, we have No Kings. This is hopefully going to be the largest protest in American history. Tonight, I'm doing an event, a virtual event with our mutual friend Tara Setmayer, and Ezra Levin is joining. We're going to be talking about it. Can you speak just very quickly to what it means right now to be standing up, speaking out? They want us afraid. They want us not to go. Trump's talking about missiles. They're calling us Antifa. They're saying that these are hate America rallies. Can you just talk to my audience, your audience, about the importance of peaceful protest right now?
Yes, I will. But I have to say this, JoJo, because I was out there with a lot of protesters in Chicago the weekend from different protest areas, and I didn't meet one person who said that they were Antifa.
Right.
So I was just started saying,
Yeah.
Which chapter of Antifa are you from? They're like, Antifa? What are you talking about? I don't know. And so that's a made up thing.
Yes.
From, the Trump administration. There's no central organizing committee for Antifa. Antifa means anti-fascist.
Yeah.
And so that would make most Americans Antifa, because I think most Americans are anti-fascist. At least that's what they say they are. They may not believe that so much right now because they don't understand the definition of fascism and that we
Right.
have careened into fascism right now. The importance of protesting, peaceful protest, visibility is important. And the moment you start standing up to cowards, especially, you will realize that standing up to people and this sort of dictatorial rule, you'll realize how cowardly people are. I don't know if you saw the woman, it's from 2 days ago. She was at 26 Federal Plaza.
Yes, I
She was
saw.
the Caribbean woman.
Yes. Oh, so good.
And she said, "Oh, really? You want to hit me? You come this way. You're going to find out what happens." Right. And I can't stand you, MFer. She said, "We're all tired. We're all pissed. We don't like you." And then, and then she got in the elevator. She goes, "Now put that shit on television so Donald Trump can see it.
Yeah.
You racist." And I was like, I need to know who she is because I want to send her flowers and I want to send her a day spa, gift certificate.
Yeah.
But it's important that you be out there, and it's important that you just don't sit and go, well, there's nothing you can do about it, because there are things you can do about it. Your money is their money, right? You pay them. And also, if there are companies that you don't support, then don't frequent those companies, right? And so take your resources away from them and keep your resources to yourself. I believe if we don't stand up for what's happening right now, this is our Latino brothers and sisters, okay? This is our migrant brothers and sisters, this is our undocumented brothers and sisters, even though other people are being caught up with this, but they're trying to criminalize those folks. The moment that you say, well, it doesn't involve me, then we've lost it. Because you think that it's just going to be those people over there that they're going to come for. No, they're going to come for everyone, even if you're a MAGA, even if you're white. One day they will come for you if you allow this to continue. So stand up for the right thing. Get out there and show the world, show this Trump administration, even if you are part of the MAGA folks, show them that you don't like people rounding up people without due process. You don't like picking up mothers in the pickup line. You don't want to see mothers being treated cruelly, or fathers, or people being picked up at their soccer games for their kids, or the football games, or the baseball games, for hardworking people who are just trying to earn a living in this country. Should they come over for the right process? Absolutely, 100%. But we live in the real world, and the real world is not perfect, and not everybody plays by the rules like that, okay? And unfortunately, we don't know. We don't know what circumstances people were escaping or coming from, and the hardships and other places. So have a bit of compassion for people, a bit of empathy. And if you want to say this country is a Christian country, I don't believe that it's freedom of religion. If you want to, then act like a Christian. Christianity says the least of these, not for the wealthy, not for the powerful, not for the people who are already here and comfortable, but the people who are coming into this country are coming over because of what? Because of hardships, and they're escaping something, coming to the land of freedom and opportunity. Do not make them come to a land of a place that is just as bad as the place they're coming from, or worse. So get out there and show the government that you care. And the only way that they're going to know it is if it is in numbers. They're afraid of polling. They're afraid of losing. And if they see the majority of Americans are pissed off and they're fighting back and they're not going to support them at the polls, you better believe they're going to change their shit. Pardon my friend.
Oh, well, it's me. So believe me, nobody is going to mind.
And tune in. Make sure you tune in, because it's Joy Reid, Jim Acosta, and I are hosting at 11 o'clock. Tara's going to be on. Jojo, you're welcome to come on as well. Going to make an appearance. We're going to host our No Kings 2.0 coverage starting at 11 a.m. on Saturday. And we're going to have people and correspondents and lawmakers from all over the country who are going to be joining us to document people who are out taking to the streets and supporting democracy and patriotism. The patriots who are going to be out there. 11 a.m. on the Don Lemon channel, on the Don Lemon Show.
That is awesome. Tara did tell me about that, and I'm very excited about it, because we're not going to counter program. We have a show that we do on Saturdays, but we're all going to be protesting. I'm actually going to be in a little tiny, very red part of New Jersey, but there's a little tiny sort of post there of liberal and progressive support, and we're going to be marching. My friends and I. My daughter's not so sure she wants to go yet, but I'm going to try and convince her. But I'm so excited. I know they want us afraid. They want people not to show up. They want people to think that bad things are going to happen to them. It's not. And we do need to show up in large numbers, too large to ignore, and they can't arrest us all. So, yeah, thank you so much, Don. It was such an incredible pleasure to talk to you. I hope that you know that you have a friend in me now. You're stuck with me. Not like I'm going to watch you sleeping kind of scary stuck with me, but if you ever need to reach out, I'd love to talk again. Next time you're in New York and I'm in New York, and Tara's in New York, we got to get a drink.
Okay, JoJo, don't be creepy. I'm kidding. Thank you. I would love that. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks, Don. That's it for today's episode of Sane-ish. Huge thanks to Don Lemon for sharing wisdom, wit, and the kind of honesty that keeps democracy alive. Be sure to check out The Don Lemon Show on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms for more unfiltered takes on the news that matters. If this episode sparked a new way of seeing things or just left you wanting more, subscribe and share with someone who needs to get real. Thanks for listening, and stay sane-ish out there.